I just remember eating it and feeling so much energy, feeling like, oh my gosh, like, yes, like that, this is a yes, this is absolutely what my body needs. Hello, internet. Welcome to my YouTube channel or video. I am Morgan, and this is my first YouTube video, or YouTube video with any substance anyways. I recently switched to a fully carnivore diet from being a vegetarian vegan for 20 years, the majority of my life, and I'm here to share my testimony and how much it's helped me and the truth that I found in it. So if you are curious about that story, or if you're vegan and you're here and you're looking into carnivore, if you're carnivore and you love hearing stories about content supporting the lifestyle, please keep watching. And if you like hearing stories about personal transformation and self-healing and just personal development, subscribe. Hopefully there's a lot more content coming. I've been on a really crazy journey these past 3 years, healing myself in a lot of different contexts. So to stay tuned and updated, subscribe, and also follow me on Instagram at @themorganmay. Let's get into it. This video has 3 parts, just a brief diet history of my plant-based journey, why I switched and how I did it, and the positive results that I've been experiencing since doing so. So just some background on my diet and why I switched at such a young age. I think everyone kind of gets into the vegan, vegetarian community for different reasons. For me, I was always a very sensitive kid, very empathetic, sensitive to like the pain of others. I would cry when I saw roadkill. I cried when I watched Jurassic Park 3 because they were hurting the dinosaurs. Like, it was just very sensitive soul. And at the ripe age of 10 years old, influenced by an uncle that I had in the family that was vegan, I, at a Thanksgiving dinner, decided that I wasn't going to eat meat anymore. And, everything kind of clicked for me, like all the animal cruelty, and that it was a life that I was taking on the table and eating it. Like, it was a very kind of emotionally based experience at the time. And yeah, it was enough for me to write off meat for the rest of my life, basically, until this past June. So up until the age of 24, I was pescatarian, so I incorporated fish like tuna, salmon, but no like poultry, no beef or anything. And then from like 24 to 26, I was full vegetarian, so I cut fish out totally. I actually cut out eggs as well. And then from 27 to like 30, I was fully vegan. I watched like a YouTube video exposing the horrors of the dairy industry, basically, and it just kind of got me to a point. I tried being vegan a few times in that time period, but like it didn't stick, and it was too carb heavy, and it just like I wasn't doing it right, so I always reverted back. But 3.5 years ago, I finally took the plunge, just became full vegan, and that's how I was living for the past 3 years since June. So my whole life, I've always been very health conscious. I was not like a diet cheese, pizza kind of vegan. Not that, not like saying that in a judgmental way, but just so everyone has context. Like, I have always been very health conscious, like smoothies every single day, salads, just like really nutrient dense, like plant-based meals. I was also like, especially the past 3 years, as veganism has really escalated into popularity in the culture, I would watch Netflix documentaries like Forks Over Knives and What the Health, and I followed all the influencers and, made all the recipes, and like I was just very much in that lifestyle. It was never like a social justice warrior thing, like it was always just for me, and I never really had an issue with other people eating meat. I would never really proselytize, but like it was just never really in my life. And then I kind of felt like I took a step deeper into that decision by becoming vegan. So after 20 years of this lifestyle, I guess it was 3 years fully vegan, 17 years like pescatarian, vegetarian. I ultimately made the switch to carnivore, and it was a slow process, but it started one day in June. I woke up from a nap after eating a bowl of chickpea pasta, and I like looked at myself and my life, and I was just kind of like, that's not normal. Why am I feeling so drowsy after eating to the point of like needing to take a nap? So I kind of really started questioning a lot of things and looking at my life objectively in like a health context. And I realized a lot. I realized that I had been sick about once a month. I realized I was always like very lethargic and very sleepy. Don't mind my cat. Um, like at this point in my life, my routine was like going to work and coming home and crawling into bed. And like that's just what it was. And I never had like a ton of energy, and I always attributed it to just being really sensitive and being more of an introvert, and just people draining me and everything. But like it kind of got to a point where I was just in bed a lot, and that kind of raised a flag for me. I was bloated a lot. I was taking like 20 different supplements. Um, and I was having a really hard time losing body fat for like the first time in my life. Like even with intermittent fasting and restrictive, like everything, like I was just having an impossible time losing body fat, which was also a flag. So at this point, after taking an inventory of my life, I kind of just like tuned into my body, and I asked it like, what do you need? And I know maybe this isn't everyone's paradigm, but the body does have a certain intelligence and a memory to it. And like my paradigm is I kind of believe we're spirits inhabiting a body, and they kind of work together. So me like forming a relationship with my body in that context has just like worked for me. So I just tuned in and I asked that. I was like, what do you need? Like, what can I do to make you happy, basically? And all I heard was like salmon. So I was like, okay. So I went to go get salmon, like some lox at Trader Joe's, and I think it was either cottage cheese or like Greek yogurt, and I ate it and immediately felt better. And I was just like, wow. Like it was like I was like breathing a sigh of relief. And I was like, what are the implications of this? Like, does this mean I'm not a vegan anymore? Is this just for this one time? Like, I kind of like sat with it for a little bit, and I got the feeling, I was like, I need to be eating more of this stuff. And I didn't necessarily know why, so I did some research, and I learned that the macronutrients of plants are typically extremely carb heavy. They're not a ton of protein and not a lot of fat. I mean, unless you're talking about like avocados, maybe coconuts, but like, which I was eating, but compared to meat, it's just not there. I was basically just pumping my body full of carbs and sugars, and not really balancing it out with any protein and fat. I mean, when you look at the macronutrients of like vegetables and fruits, like that's just what it is. And my body had like completely had enough, and I actually developed like an insulin resistance from being like a whole foods plant-based vegan and like really good with my diet. I mean, I would have like mangoes in the morning. I had a lot of fruit and a lot of, I mean, vegetables. Like that's really what it was. It was like mangoes, apples with almond butter, smoothies, berries, watermelon, grapes, and then like the veggies was like kale, tomatoes, zucchini, some sweet potato, like those were like the main things that I ate. And there's like no protein, no fat. I mean, it was just like literally all carbs. And it explained basically why I got drowsy after I ate like chickpea pasta. It explained, or anything really at that point, I was just drowsy all the time, and especially after eating. It explained why I couldn't lose body fat, a couple other things. And I was just kind of like, wow, I just like massively messed up my body from this like supposedly the best lifestyle choice that you could make, as said by the common culture and all these videos and Beyonce and like everyone. I was just like, what is going on? So learned I had insulin resistance, and I had to like seriously decrease my carb intake. So I kind of tried keto for a little bit, and that was like going okay, but I wasn't really like losing weight still, or like feeling amazing. And then I met this girl who was also a former vegan, because at that point I was eating fish again and milk, like dairy. And so I met her, and she kind of had almost a bigger horror story. She lost like all of the hair on the back of her scalp, and she was regrowing it. And we just like connected about it, and I was like, it's crazy. Like I really believed in it, and it was really based on ethics and just what I felt was right. That was honestly driven by a more emotional context, and she felt the same. And what she was doing, I mean, she told me, we had a really amazing conversation, and in it, she was saying that she was doing this carnivore diet. And I was like, what's that? And she was just like, it's like all meat all day, basically. And I was like, that sounds like a lot of meat, and it scared me. And I didn't say no to it. You know, I've always thankfully been very open-minded, but I definitely was not there. Like I was just eating fish again for the first time in like probably 5, 6 years, and you know, but it kind of piqued my interest, and I was kind of like, you know, is that what I need? You know, I couldn't ignore the fact that there was like a vegan in my reality that was part of a bigger community of other people, like former vegans, healing their bodies basically with this carnivore diet. So I planted a little seed, and I ended up doing a little bit more research on it, and it piqued my interest enough to want to kind of build up to a point of eating red meat again. So slowly I started incorporating meat into my diet. I started with turkey cold cuts, and I would like put them on a lettuce leaf with like some mustard, so a lot of plants, like embedded it with a lot of plants, and I would eat that. Just tried to keep it like keto, and tried to like get my mind, my mental basically like used to eating meat again. So I started with turkey, then I graduated to chicken, and this whole time like I knew that I had to like build up to eating red meat. But I was just honestly like so scared of it. Like I remember during this time period I had a friend who was eating a burger, and she knew that I wanted to like build up to eating red meat again, and so she offered me some, and I remember looking at it and like thinking that I was gonna cry and vomit like at the same time, like 'cause I was just so scared of it. And I was also angry about that because like it's so funny, for I think like months before this point I would sometimes catch myself like staring at my friends' meat that they were eating. Like I would just like catch myself staring at like a steak or a burger, and my whole life I had been so repulsed by meat. Like it literally just made me sick to think about. I would think about it and it was just like an automatic no, and like I just put it out of my mind because it was just gross to me. But I caught myself like staring at meat, like, you know what I mean? And that's another testament, I think, to like the body as kind of intelligent. And like, I think it's because my body just like really wanted red meat. So within 2 months, I had gone from salmon to turkey to chicken, and I knew I had to work up to red meat. And I just did this really intuitively and really kindly to myself. And I just like knew that it was what my body needed, that I could no longer eat carbs, that I needed to have more protein, more fat, things that didn't irritate insulin. And so it was really just like a mental thing, to be quite honest. And the first time that I had red meat, I was like talking to a friend about it. I was like, I need to like start eating red meat. I just like can't do it. And she was like, why don't you start with like your favorite food when you were a kid, which was hot dogs, because I was like 10 years old. And so I was with a company at a time, and we went to an outing to like a hot dog place. So I was like with my company, and I was at this like hot dog place known for their like famous hot dogs. And I ate one, and literally I felt like I was on drugs. It was crazy. I mean, it wasn't like super like obvious, but again, I'm very in tune with my body. And like, I just remember eating it and feeling so much energy, feeling like, oh my gosh, like, yes, like that, this is a yes, this is absolutely what my body needs. I ended up ordering a second hot dog. I was like, I knew at this company, and they're like, oh, this is your second hot dog. I'm like, yeah. So I ate a second hot dog, and I was just like, from that point on, it was honestly off to the races. I wanted to eat beef like every single day because I felt a difference in energy, in my body, in alertness, and in like, just energy to like stay out. I just was like up, you know what I mean? So eventually, I had been doing keto with some plants and dairy, and I ended up weaning out the plants, increasing the meat, and doing carnivore, straight 100% carnivore for about 6 weeks. And that started with like some dairy and beef, and then some like chicken and like bacon. And eventually I eliminated the dairy completely, and it was just exclusively meat and probably like 90% beef, sometimes bacon, sometimes like chicken wings. But I did that exclusively. So 0 carb and 100% carnivore, like strict carnivore, for about 6 weeks. Now, what basically happened in those 6 weeks, which I'll talk about, but the reason why it's a little bit different. My diet's like slightly different now is because my main goal is weight loss. And in those 6 weeks, I didn't notice a ton of weight loss. I was still consuming the same amount of calories. Honestly, I think I damaged my insulin response to the point of like any food entering my body was gonna just set off something and I wasn't gonna actually lose body fat. So right now, my diet is about 90% carnivore. I do alternate day fasting or very extended fasts, like 20-hour or like not 20-hour, but I'll do a 36-hour fast, so fasting for like a full day, or like I won't eat, I'll eat once a day and start at like 5 or something like that. And because of that, I didn't want to stress my body out because going zero carb, honestly, it was a little stressful on my body. Like I didn't feel totally mentally clear. I don't know if I feel like I didn't get fat adapted. I know, because I didn't start feeling like the keto flu until like towards the end of it, which I think is why I kind of like started eating. I ate like potatoes out at a restaurant. It was just a week one night. And I was like, this is like, I just really wanted carbs. And I think it's because of my insulin. Like I'm not 100% sure, but on a gut level, on like a physique level, an energy level, mental health level, all of that was like totally great. I just like wasn't losing weight, and that's like my top goal right now. So I'm doing alternate day fasting with like some carbs. Veganism also got me totally addicted to sugar, because when you're eating like carbs and sugar and fruits every day, like that's what happens. So I'm like dealing with that currently. It's like this demon that I've been like trying to fight against. So that means like right now I do alternate day fasting. On the days that I eat, it's like 90% meat, and then I'll have like a hot chocolate or like a cookie or something that has a little bit of sugar in it, just because that's where I'm at. And I'm trying to like be kind to myself while I'm doing these kind of extreme things like alternate day fasting. That's like pretty extreme. Hopefully I can get to a point where I don't need to eat sugar or whatever, but it's actually been working quite well for weight loss. I'm losing weight for the first time in years finally, so I'm gonna stick with that, like whatever works. And maybe once I lose it, go back to like 100% carnivore. I'm not sure. So the positive results that I experienced from transitioning to carnivore, again, going full like strict beef only carnivore, like meat only, predominantly beef carnivore, and now like 90% carnivore. Number one has to be the energy. I went from like, again, my routine of like going to work to coming home and crawling in bed and having a very small life and being very introverted and like not liking interacting with my environment or my community really, because I was just drained all the time, to literally like once I started eating meat, it was the craziest thing. Like I became so much more extroverted. I started like going out to bars alone and like meeting people and enjoying meeting people. I just like had energy to do things. I like also, second thing, I had energy to go to the gym and like weight lift and put muscle on my body, which felt amazing. I don't think I ever had muscle on my body. I have never had issues with like body fat until like kind of recently. But it was never like, I think I was like skinny fat, or I hate that term, but like that's kind of what it was. Like I had a nice figure, but like it wasn't like toned or like muscle, you know what I mean? And I definitely started building that once I increased my protein intake dramatically. The most profound thing that I could proselytize all day, every day, is the wildly positive impact that red meat has had on my mental health. I have had a long and painstaking trajectory with my mental health ever since I was like 14 years old. And it has just always been this like monster that I've dealt with. I know I'm probably not alone in that. And I've done everything for it. Like I used to be on medication for like 10 years. That was a complete scam. Got off of that, switched to like holistic psychiatry, CBD, hypnotherapy. I was in psychodynamic therapy. I tried all of these things, and a lot of those things actually did work for me. Not the medication, but the holistic stuff. It did. It got me from like maybe like a 30% to like 85. I think I was like at an 85%, I would say. And then I went carnivore, and it has been so profound. I can honestly say today I am like at 100%. Like I've never been like 100% like stable, like cool, calm, collected. Like I don't have anxiety. I experience stress like everyone does, but it's like normal human stress that is like within like just what our human experience is. It's not like anxiety, you know, and if it is stressful, it's caused by a, you know, external environment that's like probably validated for feeling it in the first place versus like just my own head, you know what I mean? Like I also used to have like while I was very anxious and like, you know, not at 85 and like lower percent and lower, I had very strong food sensitivity to like gluten and coffee. Like if I consumed either of those, I would have like instant anxiety and or depression for at least a day or day and a half. And now I can have like a cup, 2 cups of coffee and be totally fine, and eat gluten and be fine. Like I probably wouldn't like do it, you know, back to back to back and like test my limits necessarily. Like I don't think that these things are necessarily like amazing for the human body, but like I can handle them, and like it's like incredible. I've never like I haven't been able to do that in forever. Kelly Brogan talks about this in her practice. She went from being a mainstream psychiatrist to now a holistic psychiatrist, and she talks about the importance of red meat. And I heard her podcast years ago and I was like, oh, I forgive her for that, you know. Like she's also a former ethical vegetarian and like got into the data on the truth about meat and how much we really need it, especially in a mental health context, and changed. So yeah, the mental health positive was definitely just the thing that I probably value the most. Like I think it took me from like being 85% and like needing CBD still like intermittently to like I'm just like good. Like I haven't touched my CBD basically since like going carnivore, which is like insane to me. There are a couple of other like more nuanced positives that have come from the experience. For example, I feel like I kind of went from being prey in my own life and being very easily manipulated and very emotionally driven to now being more of a predator and an alpha in my own life, which I think we all should be. It's also crazy. I went from kind of disconnected maybe from my value system, or identifying or feeling like I was kind of on one end of the not the opposite, but like on one end of the spectrum when it came to values. And like the minute I started eating meat again, like it's like I woke up to the fact that I'm very traditional in my values. I'm very family oriented, that like I want children, and I've never like wanted that really, which is also crazy. Like I kind of feel that meat has brought me in alignment with like my authentic self in a way, if that makes any sense. Like I think a couple of things that I've done in my life have gotten me closer to that, but like in this really primal way, like this like way of natural order, I just feel so like centered in that and so good. Like I've never felt so good in my whole life. And yeah, to piggyback off of that, I think I want to make like an entirely other video pertaining to like vegan guilt. But I'll just say here that like after this whole experience, after feeling what meat did to my body, to my energy levels, to my vitality, to my vibrancy, to my mental health, my emotional stability, my mental clarity, like everything. Once I felt those effects, I knew that like this was the truth of what I needed. And I mean, will speak for myself, but I'll also say like I'm a human. We all have human bodies. I would say it's probably not far to like say that humans probably need similar or like the same things to survive and be, you know, thrive. And once I felt that and felt that it was what I needed, like I realized I was like, then this can't be bad. It can't be evil that I'm like eating this meat, you know? Like it can't be. If it's making me feel so incredible, if it's healing me, like this can't be bad. I am justified in eating this. And, you know, then I just started like just being more logical about my approach to things like my own health and the, you know, the world, and in a much bigger context. But that's something that I used to assuage vegan guilt, that if it made me feel so good, that it was natural and it was natural order. So I think I'll end the video here. I could talk on this subject for so long, and I hope to make more content about it. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, if you want to hear more videos on transformation, subscribe and leave a comment if any, you know, thing that I said in this video kind of piqued your interest, or you would like, me to pull the thread about it, so to speak, in an upcoming video, subscribe to the channel and follow me on Instagram at the Morgan May. Again, thanks for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.